Good afternoon, everybody. Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a este taller de Centro. I'm Cristel Jusino Diaz. I'm Centro's Director of Research Program, and I'm really excited to welcome you all to this webinar, which is going to be focused on how Centro's data hubs, tools, and resources can be helpful to you as journalists as you write about Puerto Rico, Puerto Ricans, both in the archipelago and in the United States. Before we start, I would like to introduce Sofia Viera, our press coordinator, who a lot of you may have heard from already, but I'll let them introduce themselves, the event, and then we can introduce the Data Hub panelists. Sofia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sofia Viera, as you heard, Centro's press coordinator. If you're here, you've definitely received an email from me, and I just wanted to introduce myself properly to you all to put a face to the name for some of you. If you have any questions after this webinar or you're working on a story, please email me. I'll be more than happy to help you with anything, whether that's with Data Hub reports or archives or getting you in contact with any of our lovely staff for an interview. But yeah, excited to have you all here.
And then I'd like to introduce you to Jorge Soldevila Irizarry, Centro's GIS specialist, who is going to be leading our webinar today. Jorge.
Sorry, I should have waved with this one. I noticed that I cut my hand and I was like, nasty things to see right now. Hi to everybody. Thank you all so much for being here today. I'm really happy that we're having this event. I mean, I think journalists do an amazing work and it provides such a service to society, and you know, we thank you all for the work that you do and highlighting and telling the stories. You that focus on Puerto Ricans, all Puerto Ricans, whether it's in Puerto Rico, the archipelago, and in Puerto Rico, the archipelago, or in the diaspora, or in, you know, whatever else that you're doing. It is appreciated, and we like seeing our communities be highlighted or talked about, whether it's in politics, music, culture, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we thank you all for the work that you do. No, I sort of also want to apologize real quickly about sort of the format that we're having. Not apologize, but just mention that we have this webinar format that facilitates us being able to later on take the recording from this and actually send it to you guys, so that if you have to revisit anything, you are able to do so through the recording. It also allows for the translation of the event. So we have this sort of one directional modality, you know, where it's sort of me talking for a bit, and then sort of there's no back and forth. But we would like the space, and when we were thinking about this event, we thought it was like we would like the space to feel a little bit more communal, and so we encourage you all to please use the chat with questions, comments as we go along, and really engage in conversation along with the people that you see on your screen right now. We have Damaira Figueroa Lazu, who is our Data Hub coordinator, and in the chat, there's also Carmen Cruz, who is a coordinator for the communications department here at Centro, and who is currently in charge of leading the Data Hub campaign. So a lot of the social media posts that you will see if you follow us on social media, which I encourage you to do, that are related to some of the Centro's reports, or include some figures or stuff that come out of the Data Hub. She is in charge of producing those. So if you have any questions also about, as we go along, about communicating with data or how to use some of the resources, or one examples of how to use some of the resources that we're producing, there are people in here that can also answer questions in the chat as I go along through it. What I intend to do with this presentation, we have sort of a hard stop at 3:45, so I'm just gonna get into the presentation. If I just share my screen real quick, and sort of, I wanted to start talking about the idea behind creating this event. And in May of this year, I'm sharing the wrong screen actually. In May of this year, there was an event hosted in in Connecticut, and it included the Center for Puerto Rican Studies, and included other institutions that focus on the Puerto Rican community and in the diaspora. And the event was generally discussing access to data relating to Puerto Rican, accessibility to data relating to Puerto Ricans, and the reliability of that information, the information that is out there. And one of the panels that occurred during that day focused on media outlets and journalists. And some of the questions that were brought up, I'm guessing that some of you were in that event, but some of the questions that were brought up by people of the media to the panelists sort of jump-started the idea for us here at Centro and within the Data Hub team of not only the need for accessible and reliable data, but the fact that the Data Hub, as it is currently producing material and is thinking through the idea of generating information that is already accessible and reliable to people. So we're already in that boat. We understand that there is a gap, and we're sort of trying to fill it out. And there's other efforts across the country and in Puerto Rico to also produce accessible and reliable information. But we feel like a lot of the things that we're doing already sort of meet that need. And we sort of came up with this idea or this event sort of like as a way to not only engage with people that might not be familiar with our content, but also to sort of strengthen whatever ties we have to journalists that already are using some information. The information that we're producing is currently being used by people in the media. I'm pretty sure that some of you might have used our reports or stuff to highlight or to accompany some of your reports. We've done other stuff with people here in the United States and in the New York metropolitan area. So we wanted to just strengthen those ties wherever we can, and also sort of stretch our arms to bring in more people and sort of show you and highlight some of the stuff that we're doing that already provides sort of accessible and reliable information, and hopefully invite you all to keep using us as a resource and to seek out more information from us so that we can provide a better service to journalists and media outlets as a community that we also want to serve. So I really do encourage you that as I go along, sort of my plan is to show some of the things that we're currently doing and finish out like showcasing some of our tools, reports, dashboards, et cetera, but I really do encourage you to, as I go along, please use the chat to either make questions, suggestions. At the end, we'll allow time for questions, obviously, and hopefully then if you have stuff that you're interested in doing, projects that you're working on, and you want to drop them and because you don't know about the information, please do, and so that we can engage in that conversation and see how can we move forward. And also because this also helps us sort of expand the projects that we're doing and provide a better service to a community that we really want to help in whatever way we can. So this event is really envisioned so that either if you're a data journalist, if you're a person who uses data, numbers, figures to accompany the stories that you're using, or if you're really not necessarily a data journalist, but some of the stories that you're writing are focused or heavily focused on numbers and figures and stuff like that, we hope that this event helps you in sort of gaining an understanding of how the Center for Puerto Rican Studies and the Data Hub can provide. It's already providing data that is accessible and reliable for you all to use. So yeah, so before I get on to like some of the tools and stuff that we're doing, let me just briefly start talking about what is the Data Hub, because I'm guessing many of you might be familiar with the Center for Puerto Rican Studies and some of the work that we do, but some of you might not. The Center for Puerto Rican Studies is a Puerto Rican research institution. No, it was founded in 1973 by activists, researchers, scholars, community members, because there was a need for research and understanding and a preservation of the histories of Puerto Ricans in the diaspora. and it really has evolved throughout the years into like the premier center for research on Puerto Ricans in the diaspora and also in Puerto Rico. And sort of as the years went along, sort of around 2011, 2012, the idea came of creating within within Centro, a data center, a data hub where we could provide robust research and analysis using publicly available data as a way to providing accessible information for scholars, policymakers, and the press and general public, because information about Puerto Ricans tends to be severely limited. There's multiple reasons why. There's the effects of colonialism and restraints or just limits that the U.S. Census Bureau or other federal agencies put on themselves, but also that sometimes the population margin might be small, so that statistically they cannot generate the information without telling everybody where the Puerto Ricans live and how much money they make and all that type of thing. So there's a privacy issues that sometimes arises. So we try to do our best to provide robust analysis and make information that is available really accessible to people and the public. We do that through research publications and hosting events like this, but we also produce a number of infographics and reports, tools, and data requests, which is sort of what we'll be talking during this presentation. And this is our way to making data that is already produced by some federal agency or something like that, making it accessible to the public. And what we hope is that if you are not already using it, you will engage with them as a way of gaining reliable and accessible information. One of the basic tools that we have are infographics, and Centro infographics or the Data Hub's infographics are just visual representations of the most up-to-date sociodemographic information about Puerto Rican population, and we also do them for Hispanics. So now that, and I'll show you how to access them. So now, say for example that we're during Hispanic Heritage Month, this is a nifty tool to use if you were interested in writing about Hispanics and needed like population counts and stuff like that. So if we wanted to access them, I would show you really how to do it. We go to the Centro website, and in the top branch of it, there is a research and data hub section. And if we click here, we can scroll down to the data hub, which is already set up. Root and relation and bridging the divides are other research units within Centro. But if we click explore the data hub, and in the reports and infographics section, we go to explore reports. It's a lot of clicking, but it's built in to sort of be logically embedded, and so that we can find things easily. And we have our filters here, so we can filter for infographics. And there's one right now because this is this is a landing site for infographics for Centro, and I'll just drop the link in the chat real quick. And so in here, you'll find infographics of Puerto Ricans and Hispanic populations for different states of the United States. And we have a 2019 information. So if we click here, we'll find that there's information for United States and a number of other states. For 2021, there's Puerto Rican population for a number of states, including and the city of New York. And the same for Hispanic population, but only for the United States and New York and New York City. We are based in New York, so we also always highlight a little bit more New York and New York City. Also, there's a historic population, and so we want to keep track of how the Puerto Rican population is changing. And really what they contain, if I click New York, for example, is first a map sort of representing the distribution of Puerto Rican population in the state, but also we get information like the total population, like the distribution by sex. The U.S. Census Bureau, unfortunately, does not provide much information on gender, so male and female is what we're limited to. We get information about health insurance coverage, whether Puerto Ricans are covered by private health insurance, they have public health insurance, or they have some combination of both or no health insurance. There's age distribution information, their employment status, whether they're employed or not, and their unemployment rate. educational attainment, which is always interesting. And this is meant as a tool that can be accessed, read, and add as information that can highlight or enhance some of the stories that we're telling. If by any chance, most of you, I guess, have read the piece in the Centro de Periodismo Investigativo yesterday that talked about voter fraud and dead people voting in Puerto Rico. There's a paragraph where they discuss that there's over 600,000 people registered in with the Enlace that are above the age of 65, when the data for American Community Survey data for 2023 says that there's only about a little over 200,000 people in Puerto Rico that are in that age group. So that's a way that the CPI used American Community Survey data to enhance sort of part of their story. And that's also what we're trying to offer here, that these tools are here for you guys to also be able to find information like that readily, like easily, or rather more easily than you would maybe going into the census website or whatnot. The same information is provided for Hispanics. So again, if you wanted to tell a story of Hispanics in New York or in New York City or something like that, and you needed some figure like the distribution of male or female, or how many are owners or renters or stuff like that, we could using these reports. We have prepared some of these infographics for other states. They're not readily available right now throughout in the site, but they are through request. So if you would like to, you can request them from us, and as soon as data for 2023 is made available, they will be updated. So sometime at the end of this year, we will update these infographics to 2023 data. Similarly, we have reports, and I'll go back to the Research and Data Hub site. And our reports are sort of more elaborate. They focus on a particular theme, and they expand on it. And they require a bit more research than just an infographic. But they are also not only an analysis of a particular subject or topic, but also they host a lot of information, because a lot of the reports that come out of the Data Hub are heavy on using tables and figures. And we recently written about Hispanic empowerment in the New York municipal workforce. We developed a child vulnerability index, which we wrote a report on. I'll highlight that a little bit later. And we talked about pervasive poverty in Puerto Rico. And we can read it here on the side, but we can also get a PDF version of it and download it. Excuse me. But if we read here, we explore it, we don't only get graphs and figures, but we have tables that contain information that we hope that is also helpful to you guys in searching for information. Excuse me. So that if I wanted to highlight a story or need information to complete a story that I'm telling, or a paragraph or an argument that I'm trying to make, some of these reports are also tools that might be helpful in doing so. Sorry. And this one only focuses on poverty in Puerto Rico. We have others we've written over the past year about redistricting, changes in race and ethnicity, and how people identify themselves. And we used to work on, did a lot of work on Hurricane Maria. So if anybody would want to revisit something from that, we've written about all these things. So yeah, they are meant to serve also not only as a rather more in-depth analysis, but really also can be used as a tool to get reliable information. Another way that we do this is through our tools, and we develop a plethora of them. One of the ones that we're most proud of is our stateside Puerto Rican dashboard, and I'll show you guys in how that one works. Again, if we go to the Research and Data Hub page, and we explore the Data Hub, we have our dashboards and web apps application. And if we do view more here, we have a number of tools. We have one that is based on that sort of it shows where the locations of open and closed schools in Puerto Rico. We have our child vulnerability index that if I open it, serves to highlight or show the landscape of vulnerability across the archipelago. September is not only the month of Hispanic Heritage Month, it's also Emergency Awareness Month. So if anybody was writing a story in the archipelago about vulnerability or emergency preparedness in Puerto Rico, this is a nice tool to think through. It has information at distinct geographic levels. So we have municipios, county subdivisions, or really barrios, and census tracts. But if we went to county subdivisions, say, for example, and we use some of our filters, and I'll search for Peñuelas because I'm from Peñuelas. And I can select the barrio, and I'll do Jaguas because that's from where I am. We can see sort of like not only the index of vulnerability for children in the area, which is relatively low, but sort of like the distribution through all the different themes included. And if you want a rather more in-depth explanation of what's going on here, I recommend reading the report. But also the tables down here serve as they provide percentages, but they provide information that can be used as it's a reliable and accessible source of information. And it has different themes. So it has child population percent, the percentage of population of the children population that is in poverty, children living in households with grandparents, and the percentage of that, the percentage of children that live in households with one parent, for example. So the tool highlights the vulnerability of children, but it also provides contextual information that can be used when doing a story or writing a report or something. So it serves both purposes. Let me just go back to the tools, because the stateside dashboard is what I really want to highlight here. And if you read in NODIA or some of the sections in NODIA, there was a report last week that talked about recent release from the American Community Survey that said that in 2023, 19,000, a little bit over 19,000 people have moved out of the archipelago and moved out of Puerto Rico. They immigrated from Puerto Rico. Well, our stateside demographic, our stateside dashboard, which contains socio-demographic data for Puerto Ricans, it's meant to serve as a hub of information, and it contains a number of variables: population, migration, work, housing, income, et cetera, but it also contains migration information. So it is possible here to also, if we want not only to focus on Puerto Rico, but to think through in-migration and out-migration to different states. This tool allows us to do that, and the amount of states that there's enough information for us to calculate these things is limited. But if we have enough states where it's like, or at least the states where Puerto Ricans are primarily located at, so it's possible to say, for example, continue that story and know where are they going, where are they going en masse, how has it changed over the past 10 years, and we can calculate percentage changes and stuff like that. We see growth in states like Oklahoma or Virginia and stuff like, oh, why are they going there? No, that's what the tool is for. Sort of also to inspire questions, but more importantly to gather information that can help enhance some of the stories that we're trying to tell. The tool also allows for us to create like an image. So if I was doing a particular analysis and I went to age and sex, for example, and I do decide to not have the United States or just clear them all, not what I want to do, and only focus on California and Connecticut for some reason. And I'm only interested in the year 2011. I can generate an image from what I've done and download it and save it so that I can continue. I don't have to redo an analysis that I'm doing. I can just continue from it with here. And there's also some sections allow for data downloads, but I would rather, if you were interested in some of the information that is provided here and downloading or obtaining the raw data, I would suggest that you reach out to us. And one way to do that is through our data request. And maybe some of you have done our use our data request. Well, before I get to that, I would really want to highlight a tool. It was done by one of our interns over the summer. Her name is Annie Yang. And she prepared a video recently
Data
of a
and research
presentation.
intern.
And I'm
Hello.
just gonna play it for a little bit because I know it's like 3:30 already and we have until 3:45. I'll just talk already. The tool, it's not currently available. It will be made available. It provides stateside information about Puerto Rican citizen age voting population. So Puerto Ricans over 18 years of age that are citizens, because not all of them are citizens, that are living in the United States, and it provides information so that if we are writing or we're thinking about voting patterns or participation in the upcoming elections, we can visit this tool and get information about the Puerto Rican population in those areas. It also contains information about Hispanics if that were needed in the story, because it's always good to contextualize within the Puerto Rican population, within the Hispanic population. But this is an upcoming tool. It's already been developed. It's being finished, and it will be updated. And our intern did a great job of preparing this tool. But data requests, it's the story is not available, and as that tool is not available, and as I was saying, it's only available for stateside Puerto Ricans or stateside Hispanics. What if we wanted a lower level of geography? What if I needed it at the city level? What if I needed it at the county level? Well, that's where data requests come in, and this is sort of like the main part of this conversation that we were trying to have. That data requests are our way to providing the public with a service. They are the way that we most directly serve the community, not through the tools or reports, but it's like when they communicate with us directly and we can provide information. Data requests for us, they are meant to sort of satisfy the needs of Puerto Ricans that need information about Puerto Ricans both in the US and Puerto Rico, but we also do requests when information about Hispanics are needed. And data requests can be accessed through our site. And if we click here, there is a submit a data request form. And through here, we can enter our names. We can do, I was looking for an example here of like the output of it. But we enter our name. So if I wanted to do this, I can do like Jorge, enter my email address, the institution that is just only for us to keep track, and the reason for the request, which is really what do I need, and a description of the data request. So say, for example, it's Hispanic Heritage Month, and I want to know the percent of Hispanics that are living in, I don't know, Maricopa County or something like that. And also the percent of Puerto Ricans that were living in that county. And you give us a date. We preferably, if you allow us at least a week or two to get notification and actually prepare and communicate with you in sort of like the format that you would like it to receive that information, then usually we provide something that sort of looks like this, where in this case, the information was requested was a plethora of variables about Puerto Ricans living in Florida. So the number of Puerto Ricans living in each county in Florida. So there's a list here on a table, sex distribution, age breakdown, the place of birth, were they born in Puerto Rico or born in the United States, educational attainment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these are things that we provide in a way of what is not available in the site. It's a way for us to do a service to the community, and it's a way for you guys, if you need information for your stories, to communicate with us so that we can provide this information or provide you with accessible data. it's not only circumscribed to socioeconomic variables. We do other things, but I think the main objective of it is or the best way to serve you guys in a readily and fast way, if we want to get if it's socioeconomic information, other information like energy and stuff like that might take a while for us to generate. Just we're a small team, and some of these other variables we already have sort of in store, like either pieces of code or easy access to them. There's other information that might be a little bit more limited. But yes, this is sort of like the presentation that we wanted to do. I'll conclude by saying that we understand that there's a need for readily and accessible information about Puerto Ricans that is not always readily available, and that is difficult to find. But us at the Data Hub, we're making an effort to sort of fill in that gap, to make data accessible, to make research about Puerto Ricans accessible, and feel free to communicate with us, to reach out either to Sophia or using sort of the data request, which is the best way to communicate with us at the Data Hub. If you are in need of information or assistance or guidance for some piece that you're working with. Thank you. And if you have, please, any questions, I know we have like 6 or 7 minutes to do so, but please put them in the chat and we'll try and get through them and answer some of them. I know some people in here in the chat, in the conversation, are already knowledgeable about data visualization and stuff like that, but also if you have questions about tools that you might want to use, we can also sort of address them now. I know that not everybody, or if you're an independent journalist or something like that, like or just posting on your blog site or something, you won't have access to a team of experts that are doing your graphs and figures and whatnot. Well, I see no questions in the chat right now. I'll just give it. Oh, there we go. When can we expect updated demographic data regarding Puerto Ricans in the US? Maybe this fall. Well, the latest information that we have is 2022. Our infographics are based on ACS community survey, and they rely on, I'm pretty sure it's 5-year and 1-year data, so not all of it is available right now. Usually we wait until December release, sorry. So 2020, the infographics for 2023 data, we will be able to finish or somewhat update late December, early January. That's when you can expect for us to publish something. There is 2023 1-year American Community Survey 1-year data already available. That may include some information for Puerto Ricans, but it's really, really limited. You're welcome. But if you need something that is is for 2022 that can be answered with 2022 data that is available, I think something one of the recent data requests that I received asked for 2024 data, and that does not exist. Like survey, at least federal surveys or surveys that are at a larger scale always have at least a 1-year lag. So we will not, we need to wait a year and a half, maybe to understand what the Puerto Rican population was doing in 2022. We learned the most of it, we learned December of 2023. So it's a pain to sometimes, because you really want to work on things and you see something on the news that somebody's talking about study. Oh, can I write about this? What information is about it's there? And it's like, I cannot provide anything that is updated because there's just not data right now. I'll have to wait until next year to be able to, I don't know, do something about etc. Whether it's like voting or something like that, or how many registered to vote, or what's the voting age population, the amount of Puerto Ricans that are of voting age population in Florida, for example, today. We don't know. We might get an estimate, but there is no 2024 information. And we have to wait for the 2023 information. So it's difficult, but hopefully by January, we can update those infographics. And whatever the information say, you should expect at least a couple of maybe a tool, like an update to the stateside dashboard tool. And depending if there's stories that we have time to write about, then some report or something about if there's like noticeable changes that we want to highlight. Many other questions. I'm checking also the Q&A chat, which you're encouraged to also use if you want to drop in a question. No, the dashboards do not provide reports. And we generally do not provide reports through the data requests. If there's a suggestion or something, or a data request comes in relating to a particular, we've gotten requests, say, from the House and Urban Development Agency, and that turned into a report. That's the pervasive poverty report, actually. So that wasn't HUD, actually. That was another congressional committee. HUD also did a data request, but it was for something else. But there are data requests that turn into reports, but no, our tools do not generally produce a report that can be used and shared. But sometimes the data requests do inspire some of the work that we do. Thank you. It's 3:42. I'll wait out for at least one or two other questions. I know we have a hard deadline at 3:45. Sophia or Cristel, if you want to jump in and make a final comment or something, you're more than welcome to. As I was saying at the beginning, I think this event was meant initially to sort of highlight some of the things that we're doing, and I sort of sped through most of them. But it's also a way for us to continue a conversation that started. I see Gabriela raise her hand, but I don't know if you can ask questions or open the mic because of the webinar format. But what I wanted to say is that please consider this a continuation of the conversation. If you find yourself with a question about data or information or visualization and stuff like that, you can reach out through the data request. I'll share my screen once again real quickly. Or I'll drop my email in the chat, which is easier. And I'll put the Centro Data Hub email also in the chat. Pretty sure I spelled that right. If somebody please double check. But you can reach out to us through there or the Data Hub, and obviously, please reach out to Sophia if you need anything specific from Centro or from us, or and stay tuned for other emails from them, other invitations to other events, or if we're working on a lot of cool stuff right now. So we hope that you'll stay tuned and wait for it. And please, if you use them, if it fits your story or something, I don't know. But yeah, all right. Thank you
Thank you,
also.
everybody.